I am a lifestyle consultant, organizing consultant, and I trained under Marie Kondo. I'm one of her first students in the US, or around the world actually. But I help people figure out what brings them joy, and I help edit out the rest, whether it's physical objects or things in your environment. So my background, I started in social work school and found my way working for some tech startups that you might be familiar with, Groupon, Crisis Text Line. And these organizations were extremely data-driven, and I learned a lot from that. We used key performance indicators to track our progress towards goals. And if you're not familiar, KPIs in business are things like stock price, click-through rates, monthly active users. And at work, they were everything. We discussed them constantly. We prioritized every action against them and its potential impact on our metrics. KPIs work because they're clear, they're objective. I worked with really smart people, and we worked really hard. But it was a high-pressure environment in both situations. I put in the extra hours and tried new ways of doing things to get to those goals faster. But despite my best efforts, I had this feeling like it was this unreachable horizon. I was putting in 100%, but I wasn't getting there. I wasn't seeing progress enough, and it started to take a toll on my life. The harder I tried, the worse I actually felt. And so this feeling has a name, and it's called learned helplessness. And that's when you realize you have a problem. And it wasn't just a feeling, but I actually took a survey. I took a test of stress and realized that I was at risk of chronic health conditions because of the level of stress that I was under. So outside of work, I was a participant in a group called Ben Franklin Circle, and it was a pilot group. Ben Franklin, if you don't know, he had a mutual improvement club, and he tracked very carefully his adherence to 13 different virtues, just like this, sort of the original bullet journal, if you will. Ben Franklin, who knew? And so I started to do the same in my life. I got out a pen and paper and thought, okay, what does living a good life actually mean? In like black and white terms, not in feeling terms and vision terms that I'm comfortable with, but in measurable terms and KPIs. And so I mapped out different areas of my life from family, body, mind, spirit, and I came up with a specific KPI that I could track, things like number of meals with my family or number of visits with friends in a year. And these were real things that I could measure in black and white terms. I started tracking, nothing complicated, just little tally marks next to each object just to see and be more mindful of how I was actually living. But back at work, we had a ritual of sharing an accomplishment and a failure every week at staff meeting. And usually people would use these opportunities to humble brag and like, oh, I worked so hard, I didn't get to the gym this week. And but when it was my turn, I shared that I had started tracking these life KPIs, and that for the metric that mattered most, number of meals with my family, which includes my husband and my 4-year-old daughter at the time, the result was 0. And something about saying it out loud made it real, and it was devastating. So a few months later, when I parted ways with the organization, some people expressed sympathy for me, but the people who were closest to me, and I knew myself, that it was really an opportunity for celebration, because my life KPIs were only going to go up and to the right as a result of that. And so if we're not careful and we're not paying attention to the little things, we can lose our lives. And so we tend to focus our lives on the big things, the big events, going public, getting that round of funding, getting married, getting engaged. But these aren't the things that define us, just like the things that are bad, like tragedies and loss, don't define us. It's these little moments in between, with my daughter doing yoga in the middle of Times Square, where a bumblebee landed on me, or watching a leaf fall down from a tree, that really make our lives big and meaningful. So tracking these things helps you notice them, helps you seek them out, and get more of them. And so as much as I'd love to hang out with all of you today and all night, I've got a dinner date with my number one, and we're going to go see Trolls tonight. So yay, that's me. Thanks.